Hello and welcome. I'm Pranay Upadhyay and you are watching India Today Global. We are starting this bulletin with an important international development on Russia-Ukraine war front. US President Donald Trump met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at Mar-a-Lago to discuss a 20-point plan to end the Russia-Ukraine war. But as hopes for a possible deal seems closer, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has leveled serious allegations on Ukraine. He said that Ukraine had tried to attack President Vladimir Putin's residence in Novgorod region, and therefore Moscow's negotiating position would be reviewed. Lavrov said that on December 28th and 29th, Ukraine had attacked the Russian president's state residence in the Novgorod region with 91 long-range drones, which were all destroyed by the Russian air defense. But Ukraine has denied. Let's listen in to what President Zelensky has said.
This is yet another lie from Russian Federation. This is clear that yesterday we had a meeting with Trump. And it is clear that for Russians, if we do not have a scandal with America and we have progress, for them it is a failure. Now with their statement that some of their residences were attacked, they are simply preparing. I'm sure, preparing. In principle, the ground for striking, probably the capital, and probably state buildings. We already had this in September. There was a missile strike on the cabinet of ministers.
President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met at Mar-a-Lago in Florida to chalk out and discuss the 20-point plan to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The US president also spoke to his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, before the meeting, and both leaders decided to talk again over the phone post-meeting.
Well, they're getting close to something, but I hope...
Trump said his call with Putin was very productive, and he was optimistic that they were closer to a peace deal.
I really believe we're probably, Mr. President, by far closer than ever before with both parties. We had some times when he was close and President Putin wasn't. Then when President Putin was close and he wasn't. You saw that in the White House. But I think they both want to see it happen.
The US also approved 15 years of security guarantees for Ukraine, which Zelensky said Kyiv would review and try to work out a way with Washington to extend the guarantees.
Yes or no? You can speak. Yes, okay. Thank you, sir. Margot.
We discussed this within our teams yesterday and approved it with President of the United States that we will have strong security guarantees from United States. Truly, now, this is not forever. In documents, this is for 15 years with the responsibility of extending these security guarantees. I raised this question with President Trump. I told him that we have the war ongoing already and that it goes for 15 years almost. And that's why we would like the guarantees be for a longer period. And I told him that we would like to review a possibility for 30, 40 or 50 years. And that it then would be a historic decision of President Trump. Trump said that he will think.
However, two issues remain yet unresolved in the 20-point plan.
Two questions remain. This is the station, how it will function, the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and the issue of territories. These are two questions that remains precisely in the 20-point document.
On the other hand, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Russia must continue offensive operations to gain full control of Donbas region and the city of Zaporizhia. The meeting between Putin and top military commanders was television in Russia, as Russian president is expected to hold phone talks with US President Trump.
Сколько? 15 километров? В настоящее время соединение группировки.
The group continues offensive operations in the Zaporizhia region. The foremost units are now roughly 15 kilometers from the southern outskirts of the city of Zaporizhia. End of report. Yes, around 15 kilometers to the outskirts. Of course, we must continue the advance along with Vostok Group to liberate Zaporizhia.
Совместно с группировкой «Восток» по освобождению Запорожья.
They want to end it like everybody wants. Russia wants it ended.
Trump and Zelensky spoke to European leaders before the meeting and assured of speaking to them later.
It could also go poorly. I mean,
The meeting between both the leaders was, however, inconclusive and no formal deadline has been set yet.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
A day before the talks took place, Russia attacked Ukraine's capital Kyiv with missiles and drones, killing 1 person and wounding 27. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
And moving on from Russia-Ukraine conflict to another tension which is brewing up in Indo-Pacific, which is China and Taiwan conflict. Chinese PLA has launched a large-scale joint live-fire drill around the Taiwan and under the codename of Justice Mission 2025. The exercise involved air, naval and rocket forces and are described by Beijing as a warning against Taiwan's independence and foreign interference. Taiwan condemned the drills as provocative while reiterating its democratic identity, as tensions also rise involving US, Russia and Japan. So what exactly is happening in the Taiwan Strait? Why China is launching repeated military exercise? To discuss this issue, I am being joined by a keen China watcher, Howard Zhang, who served in Beijing as a BBC correspondent and now remains a keen China watcher. Welcome to India Today Global, Mr. Zhang.
Thank you.
My first question to you. PLA has kicked one of its biggest live fire military drill in Taiwan Straits, and that too in just days after US announced a massive $11.1 billion arms package for Taiwan. What's the main message Beijing is trying to send here?
The message is multifold, of course. First of all, it's a message for the Taiwanese. It's to saying we're normalizing this almost a show of force as a they frame it using the word justice, legal, and we are the new order in the area. We're the de facto new order, and we can quarantine you and ring fence you as well as chokehold you whenever we want. This is the first message to scare the locals on Taiwan Island. But of course, it's also a domestic message for the population that the ruling Communist Party, President Xi, is in firm control. And the third but not the least is a message for US and its allies. This is our turf, and if you look at this time, the formation, the areas they send military troops to, and concentrated on, besides the strait, it's actually outside the strait. It's on the eastern side of Taiwan, which is, the what they call beyond the first island chains. And yes. That's almost telling the US and its allies, including Japan and others, that we can deny your entry into the area if we want to. So I guess this is the basic messages to Taiwan, to the mainland itself, as well as to US and its allies.
Absolutely, Mr. Zhang. And this is the 6th exercise China has launched within a span of 3 years. We'll come to that point. But let us look at the Taiwan's message as well, because Taiwan's Defense Ministry has openly showcased a US-made HIMARS and that could hit the target in Fujian. How do you think Beijing will read that kind of response from Taipei? And could this spark more back and forth escalation here?
First of all, the communist government in Beijing has never given up officially the goal of militarily take Taiwan if necessary. And of course, they've been talking about peaceful reunification, quote unquote. And but the goal of reinforce this idea of one China only has never been given up. So that's just the fact. And the one reason many would see deter in Beijing from actually taking action is the capability and the risks involved, as well as the strategic fallout that will come with a actual kinetic war. So I can't say, even with the escalation in tensions, I can't say I see a military conflict tomorrow, but you can definitely see a trend of Beijing slowly, gradually, but surely ramping up the pressure.
Absolutely, Mr. Zhang, because if you see the statistics since August 2022, when Nancy Pelosi visited Taipei, and after that, China launched an operation there, a military drill, similar military drill there, and thereafter we have seen this is the 6th military drill, live fire drill, which is being conducted by the Eastern Theater Command of China. So, full encirclement of the port blockade, simulation of amphibious landing, everything is being, is being worked out here. Does that signal a long-term shift in Beijing's Taiwan strategy under President Xi Jinping? Because often this has been reported that President Xi Jinping has already directed the PLA to remain prepared for Taiwan integration by 2027. Many analysts think that these drills are starting to look less like routine exercise and more like rehearsal for a real blockade or an invasion. How seriously should we take that message right now and that risk right now?
Yeah, what you said, rehearsal, is definitely one part of it. But as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a deliberate making the world understand this is what they call normalization of this type of actions. So this would no longer be, it's almost a desensitization of, a few years ago, if Beijing mounted, when they mounted the first few of these type of blockades or rehearsal blockades, the world was alarmed. But if this continues, it becomes a routine. It's almost giving them the legitimacy of doing this in the area. I think that's the main goal now. So if this continues and becomes a routine, they don't need to then have a daily incursion of flights. They can just say, I can do this. It's similar. There's a parallel you can see with the pre-war, Russia moves near Ukraine. And so there's a lot of that buildup. But whether, again, we don't know when and where this actual thing will happen. That is a big million-dollar question.
Absolutely. But Mrs. Zhang, whenever that will come, that will have wider ramification because this will not be limited to only Taiwan Strait. Looking at the bigger picture here, what do these latest drills mean for the regional stability and for the US-China ties, as well as the alliances with Japan, Philippines, and even Russia, because there is a reaction by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov as well, as far as the Taiwan situation is concerned?
Yes, of course, this impact will be felt by all sides. First of all the players in the area, chiefly US, Japan, and Taiwan, will start to really look closely and calculate their own capabilities. And besides the US sale of a massive package of arms to Taiwan, just before that, the Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi also mentioned, if Taiwan is at risk, then Japan is at risk. This is also triggered a lot of angry backlash from Beijing, but it just shows all the eyes are in this, what they called chokehold area, because huge volumes, the majority of trade going between East Asia to the West go through Taiwan Strait, South China Sea, Indian Ocean. And of course, the US and India has full control over the Indian Ocean and the Malacca, but beyond Malacca into South China Sea and Taiwan, that chokehold at this moment is international waters. But if hostility ever were to break out in the area, and all the major powers will have to do their calculation, because even India has massive trade with East Asian countries, and if something in the Taiwan Strait happens, it will impact on all people, and so the U.S. will have to do their calculation. So does Japan and all the other powers.
But Mrs. Zhang, as we are talking about a wider picture here, you mentioned about the Indo-Pacific here and the interest of India as well. But recently we have seen a increased Chinese assertion, because recently they are conducting live fire drills around Taiwan, but also in the Philippines exclusive economic zone, there has been Chinese ship, and there is a statement by the Philippine Coast Guard that they have objected to the presence of the Chinese ship there. Recently, there are missile tests conducted by North Korea as well. Is anything brewing up in this region, specifically in the Indo-Pacific region, which we should be concerned about and which we should be cautiously reading about?
The bigger picture, I guess most of our audience possibly already are aware, is the overall rivalry between the bloc that's loosely aligned, China, Russia, Iran, and with the existing status quo powers of the post-World War II Pax Americana, or the American-led world order. They are challenging the US on all fronts. In Europe, you got the Ukraine war. In the Middle East, Iran and its allies and proxies are challenging US power status quo via a hit on Israel. And now you also have China ramping up the pressure. So none of this is isolated for me. And all of that, at the bottom line, is trying to see how the US and its what they call declining powers of the West will react. And many will use the term gray zone warfare. So lots of this showing the force, but not actually engage in direct hostility, and pushing the pressure points, and seeing, using, they've also used the cutting off supply temporarily of rare earth minerals, and hitting the Philippines, which is a U.S. ally in the area. Lots of those tactics is what they call the gray
Absolutely,
zone
Mr. Zhang. A lot of points of confrontation are building up between these two powers, and we have to see if another fault line is getting activated in the Indo-Pacific region. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and for being in the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And moving on, let's talk about US President Donald Trump, who hosted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at his Mar-a-Lago residence to discuss a 20-point plan to end the Russia-Ukraine war. However, photographs taken ahead of their meeting drew attention to Trump's right hand, which appeared heavily made up, fueling speculation that he was covering up a medical issue. Previously as well, President Donald Trump has been seen with bandages and makeup on his hand, prompting the public to speculate about the 79-year-old president's health. The White House has, however, dismissed the speculation and said that the visible bruising was actually due to constant handshaking by the president. But the mismatched concealer on Trump's right hand clearly visible as he spoke to reporters during the press meet, and that caught the attention of social media users as well. Some expressed concern about his health, while others joked that he was like a Demogorgon, the humanoid creature from Stranger Things. Trump has consistently dismissed the concern about his health and contrasting himself with his predecessor Joe Biden and asserting that he remains physically fit. And now, let's see what else is happening around the world in World at a Glance.
Myanmar's military leader, Min Aung Hlaing, cast his vote on Sunday in Myanmar's election, the first since his military seized power in a coup in 2021. Meanwhile, voting has closed in Myanmar's general election, held under the supervision of its military government, while a civil war rages throughout much of the country. The ruling military authorities are hoping the poll will give them legitimacy almost 5 years after overthrowing the democratically elected government, Aung San Suu Kyi. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met the family of last Israeli hostage, Ran Givil, after arriving in Florida ahead of his meeting with US President Trump. The family of Ran Givil joined Netanyahu on the flight to the United States. Netanyahu, who will meet Trump at his Mar-a-Lago Beach Club, said on December 22nd that discussions were expected to cover the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire, as well as Iran and Lebanon.
I'm the happiest person
Israel became the first country to formally recognize the self-declared Republic of Somaliland as an independent and sovereign state, a decision that could reshape regional dynamics and test Somalia's long-standing opposition to secession. Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel would seek immediate cooperation with Somaliland and in agriculture, health, technology and the economy. Netanyahu, Foreign Minister Gideon Saar and Somaliland President signed a joint declaration of mutual recognition. Mexican authorities reported at least 13 people were killed and 98 others injured after an interoceanic train carrying 250 people derailed in the southern state of Oaxaca. The Mexican Navy said the train, which derailed near the town of Nizana, was carrying 9 crew members and 241 passengers. Of those on board, 139 were reported to be out of danger, while 98 were injured, including 36 who were receiving medical assistance. British former heavyweight boxing champion Anthony Joshua was involved in a car accident in Nigeria's Ogun state that killed 2 people. Joshua, 36, sustained minor injuries when his vehicle collided with another car. The case is being investigated.
She is a duchess, a producer, a lifestyle entrepreneur, and according to the internet, one of the America's most disliked celebrities. Tonight, a startling ranking that has reignited the Meghan Markle debate. Kshitija Gosavi with this report.
For most of 2025, one name has refused to leave the top of Ranker's most disliked celebrities in America list. And that's none other than Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle. Ranker's poll is crowdsourced and live. Over 95,000 viewers voting in real time. And Markle currently sits at number 2. Just behind Sean Combs, better known as PDD, who is now serving a federal prison sentence after being convicted on charges related to prostitution and abuse. Well, let that sink in. On the same list, Bill Cosby ranks lower, despite decades of sexual assault allegations. So do Amber Heard and Ellen DeGeneres. Even Prince Harry. Yes, Prince Harry appears at number 6, making the Sussexes the only couple both landing in the top tier. This isn't a morality scale, it's a reaction meter. Critics point to staff turnover, branding missteps, and reports from former employees describing a difficult work environment. Supporters argue she's unfairly scrutinized, overexposed, and relentlessly targeted. But one thing is undeniable. While others feed from the rankings, Meghan Markle doesn't disappear. New projects, new headlines, new votes. Love her or hate her, America can't stop reacting. And on Ranker, reaction is everything. With Kshitija Gosavi, Bureau Report, India Today.
The much debated battle of sexes has once again made the headlines. What exactly is the battle of sexes? And why does it continue to raise questions about gender inequality in sports? From its origin in 1973 to the 4th edition held on Sunday, December 28th, here is a report by Meenakshi Shandilya.
All the way from Australia, Nick Kyrgios, the world #1. Please welcome Aryna Sabalenka.
It was the 4th much-debated Battle of the Sexes held on Sunday, December 28th, when the world's #1 women's tennis player, Aryna Sabalenka, faced Australian tennis star Nick Kyrgios, currently ranked 671 in the world. Kyrgios defeated Sabalenka at Dubai's Coca-Cola Arena, winning the prize money of $12 million. However, Aryna Sabalenka has lost the match, but not the battle. She's finished as the best women's tennis player for the 2nd consecutive time.
It's Nick Kyrgios.
In tennis, the battle of the sexes refers to high-profile exhibition matches between male and female players, staged to compare skill levels and to spark debate around gender equality in sports. The concept began with Bobby Riggs, a former American #1 tennis champion and 6-time Grand Slam title holder. Riggs publicly claimed that the women's game was inferior and boldly stated that he could defeat the world's best female player even at the age of 55. Riggs first challenged Billie Jean King, then world's #1 women's player from the US. When she declined, Margaret Court accepted the challenge for a prize of $20,000. However, Court, who had given birth to her first child in March 1972, was defeated by Riggs on Mother's Day, May 13, 1973, in Ramona, California. The match came to be known as the Mother's Day Massacre. Following this, Riggs openly mocked women tennis players, prompting Billie Jean King to accept his challenge, and the second battle of the sexes began. Played for a prize money of $100,000, the match brought a twist to the story.
And here comes Billie Jean King, and she's got the fans here tonight. Bobby has talked so much as the #1 male chauvinist in the world. Oh, here comes Bobby Riggs. You see him now in the picture. And they talk about money, $100,000, winner take all, but it's more than that, really.
Interestingly, on September 20, 1973, the then 29-year-old Billie Jean King defeated Bobby Riggs, delivering a landmark victory that strengthened the fight for equal prize money for men and women.
The first set at 4 games apiece. Billie Jean serving and leading in the 9th game, score 30-love, and perhaps about to become 40-love. Yes, with a brilliant play.
The match became a defining moment in the history of gender equality in sports. Now, 33 years later, the battle of the sexes has been revived, this time once again placing the spotlight on women's empowerment. While some critics argue that these battles promote unnecessary and unfair comparisons between men's and women's sports and are conducted mainly for entertainment, others believe they help keep the call for ongoing conversation around equality and equal pay in men and women's sports alive. With Meenakshi Chandelier, Bureau Report, India Today.
And that's all we have in this edition of India Today Global. Thank you very much for watching the show. Good night and take care.